My friends, there is no greater joy than walking in the will of God. There is no greater peace than knowing you are aligned with His divine purpose. And there is no greater blessing than stepping into a relationship that God Himself has ordained. But how do you know when God says yes? How do you discern His voice amid the noise of emotions, desires, and worldly influences? Many people rush ahead, making decisions based on their own understanding. They look at appearances, chemistry, or fleeting emotions, and they say, "Oh, this must be right." But God does not work according to human impulses. He works according to His perfect will. He works through preparation, through timing, through trials, and through confirmation. And when God says yes, no force in heaven or on earth can stand against it. When God ordains a union, He begins by preparing the hearts of both individuals. He is a God of order, not confusion. Before Adam received Eve, God gave him a responsibility. He placed him in the garden and assigned him a purpose. In the same way, before God brings two people together, He refines them. He removes selfishness. He deepens their faith. He teaches them to love Him first before they can love another. You may be in a season of waiting, wondering when your time will come. You may be questioning if God has forgotten you, but let me tell you today, God's delay is not His denial. His timing is perfect. When God says yes, it will be at the appointed time, not a moment too soon or too late. The Bible tells us, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. Do not rush ahead of God's plan. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail for His glory. A relationship that God ordains will always align with His word. It will not lead you into temptation. It will not encourage sin. It will not pull you away from God's presence. Instead, it will strengthen your walk with Him. It will push you toward righteousness. It will inspire you to love, to serve, to build. The person God brings into your life will not only love you, but will also love God more than they love you. Because when someone truly loves God, they will know how to love you the way God intended. But hear me today. Even when God says yes, that does not mean the journey will be easy. The enemy always attacks what is divinely ordained. Challenges will come. Tests will arise. There will be moments when doubts try to creep in. But when God is at the center of a relationship, those trials will not break you. They will strengthen you. The storms will come, but your foundation will not be shaken. How do you recognize a God-ordained union? By the fruit it produces. A relationship from God will not leave you feeling empty or lost. It will not lead to chaos, pain, or confusion. Instead, it will produce love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These are the marks of God's presence. If a relationship is bearing fruit that draws you closer to God, that is a sign His hand is upon it. But hear this, my friends, a yes from God requires faith and obedience. Many people want God's best, but they are unwilling to surrender their own desires. They chase after what looks good instead of waiting for what is truly from Him. They settle for less because they fear they will not receive more. But God is not a God of compromise. He is a God of abundance. If you trust Him, if you obey Him, if you are willing to let go of what is not from Him, He will lead you to the relationship that is far greater than anything you could have imagined. So today I challenge you, do not settle for anything less than God's. Yes, do not rush ahead. Do not compromise. Do not let fear dictate your choices. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and He will direct your path. If He has spoken yes over your relationship, walk forward in faith. If He has spoken no, have the courage to let go. And if He has asked you to wait, know that His timing is always right. Because when God says yes, He does not just give you a partner. He gives you a purpose. He does not just give you a relationship. He gives you a testimony. He does not just give you love. He gives you a love that reflects His own. And that, my friends, is the greatest gift of all. May God bless you, guide you, and prepare you for the union He has ordained for your life. Amen. People today are impatient. They want what they want, and they want it now. They see something desirable, a relationship, for example, and they convince themselves that it must happen immediately. They feel an emptiness, a longing, and they assume that fulfillment must come through acquiring the thing they believe is missing. But life does not work that way. Life unfolds according to deeper, more complex patterns, and the timing of those patterns is not determined by human desires alone. It is governed by something higher, by order, by necessity, by the reality that true readiness takes time. Consider the structure of anything that lasts. A strong house is not built in a single day. A tree does not bear fruit the moment it is planted. Great career, a great skill, a great achievement. None of these happen instantaneously. And yet people often believe that relationships should be different. They believe that love should appear suddenly, that commitment should emerge fully formed, that the foundation should already exist without having been laid. But that is a naive view of the world. Things that matter, things that have weight and substance, require time to develop. A relationship is no different. There is a right time for everything, and that includes love. Rushing ahead when you are not ready will not bring you fulfillment. It will only bring you struggle. And worse, it may blind you to what could have been if you had only waited. Timing matters because people are not static creatures. They change, they grow, they develop. And if you enter a relationship before you have developed into someone capable of sustaining it, you are setting yourself up for failure. You are asking something of yourself that you are not yet equipped to give. That is why preparation is critical. You do not simply stumble into a successful relationship. You prepare for it. You cultivate the traits that will allow you to thrive within it. If you are impatient, you must learn discipline. If you are selfish, you must learn to give. If you are insecure, you must develop confidence, not the shallow confidence that comes from external validation, but the deep, stable confidence that comes from knowing who you are. Without these things, a relationship will not function properly. It may last for a while, but it will not endure. People often mistake loneliness for readiness. They think, I feel alone, therefore I must be ready for a relationship. But that is not true. Readiness is not defined by what you lack, but by what you have built. A person who is truly ready for a relationship is not desperate for one. They are content within themselves. They have established their own foundation. They have developed the ability to stand alone, and because of that, they are capable of standing with another. They are not looking for someone to complete them. They are looking for someone to walk alongside them. And this is crucial. The right person at the wrong situation to the wrong situation. You may meet someone who has all the qualities you admire. You may feel a connection, a sense of excitement, a pull toward them. But if you are not ready, if they are not ready, then forcing the relationship will only lead to pain. It is like trying to harvest a crop before it is ripened. The potential may be there, but the conditions are not yet right. And if you try to force something before it's time, you may destroy what could have been. So what does readiness look like? It looks like stability. It looks like the ability to handle adversity without breaking down. It looks like a person who has a direction in life, who has built something meaningful within themselves. If you cannot manage your own emotions, you will not be able to navigate the emotions of a relationship. If you cannot take responsibility for your own actions, you will not be able to take responsibility for another person's heart. Readiness is not about feeling ready. It is about being prepared. And being prepared means having the strength, the wisdom, and the character to sustain something long-term. Patience is hard. It is difficult to wait when you want something deeply. But impatience leads to compromise. It leads to settling for less than what is right, less than what is best. It leads to relationships that are built on need rather than strength, on fear rather than wisdom. And those relationships do not last. They may burn brightly at first, but they burn out quickly because the foundation was never solid. It was never given the time to form. If you want something that lasts, you must be willing to wait for the right time. You must be willing to trust that growth takes time, that maturity takes time, that real love takes time. You must be willing to let yourself develop into the person you are meant to be before you try to merge your life with another. And when the time is right, when you have done the work, when the foundation is strong, when you are truly ready, you will not have to force it. It will unfold as it is meant to. Because when something is truly right, when it is aligned with the deepest order of things, it will not require desperation. It will not require manipulation. It will happen because it was meant to happen. And that is the only kind of love that is truly worth having. People often want a great relationship, but they rarely consider what that truly requires. They imagine love as something that simply happens, an event, a stroke of luck, something that falls into place effortlessly. But this is a childish view. Real relationships are not built on luck. They are built on preparation. And that preparation begins long before two people ever meet. The reality is that before you can enter into a deep, meaningful relationship with another person, you must first undergo a process of personal transformation. You must become the kind of person who is capable of sustaining love, not just experiencing it for a fleeting moment. And that does not happen passive. It requires effort, sacrifice, and self-reflection. If you enter into a relationship without having first built a strong foundation within yourself, you will bring instability into that relationship. You will make your partner responsible for things that you should have already worked out. You will place expectations on them that they were never meant to fulfill. So what does this preparation look like? It starts with character. If you have not yet learned to tell the truth, to act with integrity, to discipline yourself, then how do you expect to handle the weight of commitment? A relationship is not just about feelings. It is about responsibility. It is about standing by your word even when it is difficult. It is about choosing to love someone even when you do not feel like it. That requires strength. It requires discipline. And discipline is not something that magically appears when you fall in love. It is something that must be cultivated in advance. People who rush into relationships before they are ready often find themselves overwhelmed by their own unaddressed issues. If you have not dealt with your insecurities, they will manifest in the relationship. If you have not learned to regulate your emotions, you will take them out on your partner. If you have not confronted your fears, your doubts, and your weaknesses, they will poison what could have been a great connection. Love does not erase these things, it exposes them. And if you are not prepared to handle that, the relationship will suffer. Another crucial aspect of preparation is learning to be alone without being lonely. Many people seek relationships out of a desperate need to fill an internal void. They believe that another person will complete them. That love will finally make them whole. But that is a dangerous mindset. No human being can fulfill you completely. If you rely on someone else to give your life meaning, you will place an unbearable burden on them. And eventually, that burden will become too heavy. A healthy relationship consists of two whole individuals coming together, not two broken individuals trying to complete each other. This means that before you enter into a relationship, you must first learn to be content within yourself. You must cultivate purpose. You must develop emotional stability. You must learn to stand on your own 2 feet so that when you do meet someone, you are not clinging to them for survival, but rather walking alongside them as an equal. This also means confronting your past. Many people carry wounds from childhood, from past relationships, from failures and disappointments. If these wounds are not addressed, they do not simply disappear when love enters the picture. They fester. They create patterns of fear, insecurity, and self-sabotage. A person who has not worked through their past will repeat it. They will project old pain onto new relationships. They will act out patterns that they themselves do not fully understand. And they will wonder why they keep experiencing the same problems over and over again. True preparation requires self-awareness. It requires looking at yourself honestly and asking, what areas of my life need work? If you are impatient, you must learn patience. If you are selfish, you must practice selflessness. If you are easily angered, you must develop self-control. You do not wait until you are in a relationship to figure these things out. You work on them now because a relationship will not fix these problems. It will amplify them. There is a reason why strong marriages are not built on fleeting passion alone. Passion fades, excitement wears off. What remains is character, discipline, and commitment. And if you have not built those things within yourself, you will not be able to sustain a relationship over the long term. Many people think they are ready for love because they desire it. But desire is not enough. Readiness is about what you have become, not just what you want. So ask yourself, if you met your ideal partner today, would you truly be ready? Would you be someone who brings stability, strength, and wisdom into the relationship? Or would you bring chaos, insecurity, and unresolved issues? If the answer is the latter, then the most important thing you can do right now is focus on your own growth. Because the best relationships do not happen by chance. They happen when two prepared people come together at the right time. And that is why preparation matters. It is not just about making yourself more attractive to another person. It is about becoming someone who can build something lasting, something meaningful, something real. Because when love comes, when the opportunity for true connection presents itself, you do not want to be in a position where your own lack of preparation causes you to lose what could have been the greatest blessing of your life. People often say they want a good relationship, but they rarely consider the fundamental question, what does a good relationship look like? And more importantly, how do you recognize one when it appears? There are many ways people try to answer this. Some look for strong feelings, some look for compatibility, some look for shared interests. But there is a deeper principle at work in relationships that stand the test of time, and that principle is alignment with what is true, what is right, and what is ordered. A relationship that is built on a faulty foundation cannot last. If it contradicts fundamental truths about human nature, about commitment, about sacrifice, then it will collapse under its own weight. And that is why it is crucial to understand that a good relationship, a healthy relationship, a relationship that is truly sustainable, must align with something greater than mere personal desires. It must be built on something objective, something that transcends fleeting emotions and subjective preferences. Look at history, look at philosophy, look at the patterns of successful relationships throughout time. They all share key elements. They involve respect, they involve trust. They involve responsibility. They involve discipline. These are not arbitrary ideas. They are the foundation upon which love can actually thrive, and they are not optional. You cannot expect to build something meaningful without these things in place. One of the greatest mistakes people make in relationships is thinking that love alone is enough. They believe that if they feel strongly enough, if they care deeply enough, then everything else will work itself out. But that is not true. Love that is not accompanied by discipline and structure is chaotic. It turns into resentment, into disillusionment, into suffering. Because love, in its most profound sense, is not just about feelings. It is about commitment to truth, to responsibility, to acting in a way that sustains and builds rather than destroys and corrupts. And so how do you know if a relationship is truly right? You must ask yourself, does this relationship align with fundamental truths? Does it align with what is good, what is just, what is ordered? If a relationship is built on deception, it is doomed. If a relationship encourages weakness instead of strength, it will fail. If a relationship leads to isolation instead of growth, it is not sustainable. A relationship that is truly aligned with what is right will bring out the best in both individuals. It will challenge them, not in a way that destroys, but in a way that refines. It will require both people to grow, to improve, to become better versions of themselves. And that is not always easy. Growth is painful, responsibility is demanding, but without those things, love degenerates into something selfish, something weak, something unstable. This is why relationships that contradict fundamental truths are so destructive. If a relationship is based on lust rather than commitment, it will eventually collapse. If a relationship is based on lies rather than honesty, it will unravel. If a relationship encourages irresponsibility instead of accountability, it will breed dysfunction. These are not just abstract concepts, they are real, observable patterns that repeat themselves over and over again in people's lives. and ignoring them does not make them any less real. It is crucial to understand that alignment with truth does not mean perfection. No relationship will ever be flawless. But there is a difference between a relationship that is struggling in the right direction and one that is fundamentally flawed from the outset. The first is worth fighting for. The second is a warning sign that should not be ignored. This is why self-awareness is so critical. You must be able to look at your own relationship honestly. Are you growing together, or are you enabling each other's worst tendencies? Are you building something that will last? Or are you caught in a cycle of temporary pleasure followed by inevitable disappointment? These are hard questions, but they must be asked, because the cost of ignoring them is too high. People often think that relationships are a matter of luck. They believe that finding the right person is simply about being in the right place at the right time. But that is a deeply flawed perspective. A good relationship is not something that happens to you. It is something that you must actively create. And creating it requires effort, wisdom, and an understanding of what is truly important. If you find yourself in a relationship that encourages disorder, that pulls you away from truth rather than toward it, that weakens you instead of strengthening you, then you must ask yourself why you are in it. Are you afraid of being alone? Are you clinging to something that is familiar, even though it is not good? Are you prioritizing comfort over truth? These are serious questions, and they demand serious answers. Because in the end, a relationship that does not align with fundamental truth will not stand. It may last for a time, but it will eventually crumble under the weight of its own contradictions. The best relationships, the ones that endure, the ones that bring meaning and fulfillment, are those that are rooted in what is real, in what is ordered, in what is good. And so if you seek a relationship that will truly last, do not ask only if you love the person. Ask if the relationship itself is aligned with truth, because love without truth is blind, and a relationship without order is doomed. Seek what is right, and the rest will follow. People often fail to understand the immense responsibility that comes with a relationship. They see love as something that simply happens, something that should be easy, something that exists to make them happy. But this is a shallow, naive perspective. Relationships are not just about happiness. They are about growth, and growth is painful. It requires effort, sacrifice, and discipline. If you are not willing to put in that effort, if you are not prepared to take on that responsibility, then you are not ready for a real relationship. Too many people enter relationships for the wrong reasons. They are lonely. They are insecure. They want validation. They think that love will solve their problems. But that is a dangerous mindset. A relationship will not fix you. If you are broken, if you are undisciplined, if you are lost, then a relationship will only magnify those issues. It will bring them to the surface. And if you are not prepared to confront them, to work on them, to take responsibility for them, then the relationship will suffer. A real relationship is not about escaping your problems. It is about becoming strong enough to face them together. That means you need to be strong as an individual first. If you are dependent on another person for your sense of worth, for your emotional stability, for your direction in life, then you are placing an unbearable burden on them. No human being can carry that for you. That is your responsibility. Strength in a relationship does not mean that you will never struggle. It does not mean that you will never have doubts, fears, or moments of weakness. But it does mean that you are willing to confront those things rather than running from them. Well, it means that you take ownership of your emotions, your actions, and your choices. It means that you do not blame your partner for your own failures, but instead work to overcome them together. Many people have an unrealistic view of love. They think that if they are with the right person, everything should feel effortless. But that is not how life works. Everything that is valuable requires work. A great career requires years of discipline and sacrifice. A strong body requires consistent effort and resilience. A deep understanding of any subject requires study, failure, and persistence. Why would love be any different? Why would the most important relationship in your life require anything less? The truth is that love requires more effort than anything else. It demands honesty, vulnerability, patience, and commitment. It requires that you confront your own flaws, that you communicate openly, that you sacrifice your own desires for the good of the relationship. And most people are not ready for that. Most people want the benefits of love without the responsibilities. But you cannot have one without the other. If you are not willing to take responsibility for your role in a relationship, then you will end up blaming your partner for everything that goes wrong. You will see every conflict as their fault. You will refuse to change, to grow, to admit when you are wrong, and that will destroy the relationship. Because a relationship is not about winning. It is about building something together. And you cannot build anything of value if you are not willing to put in the work. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that love should always feel good. But love is not about constant happiness. Love is about facing reality together. It is about standing side by side through struggle, through hardship, through doubt. It is about knowing that even when things are difficult, even when you do not feel like being patient or kind or understanding, you choose to be. Because that is what commitment is. That is what real love is. The strongest relationships are not the ones where two perfect people come together. There is no such thing as two perfect people. The strongest relationships are the ones where two imperfect people choose to grow together. They recognize that they have weaknesses, that they have flaws, that they will make mistakes. But they take responsibility for those things. They learn from them quicker. They use them as opportunities to become better. This is why self-improvement is critical before entering a serious relationship. If you do not have control over your emotions, your reactions, your habits, then you will bring chaos into the relationship. If you are insecure, you will become jealous. If you are irresponsible, you will create instability. If you are dishonest, you will break trust. These are not small things. They are the foundation of whether a relationship will stand or collapse. So if you want a strong, lasting relationship, then the most important thing you can do is take responsibility for yourself first. Develop discipline. Learn emotional control. Become someone who can handle challenges without falling apart.
Right.
Because love is not just about how you feel, it is about how you act. And if you cannot act with responsibility, with strength, with wisdom, then you are not ready for love. And when you do become ready, when you have put in the work, when you have built yourself into someone capable of carrying the weight of love, then the right relationship will not feel like something you must desperately grasp for. It will come naturally because you will be in a place where you can truly sustain it. And that is the kind of love that lasts, not the kind built on momentary desire, but the kind built on real, enduring strength. People often believe that love is something that simply happens, a force outside of themselves, beyond their control, something they stumble into by chance. They assume that when the right person comes along, everything will fall into place effortlessly. But that is a dangerous illusion. The reality is that lasting love is not something you find. It is something you must actively build. And the ability to build it requires a deep level of self-awareness. If you do not understand yourself, if you have not confronted the complexities of your own nature, then you will be blind to the way you operate in a relationship. You will react emotionally without understanding why. You will project your fears, insecurities, and unresolved issues onto your partner without realizing it. And that will lead to chaos. A person who does not know themselves will sabotage their own happiness because they do not even see what they are doing. People carry wounds from their past, wounds from childhood, from failed relationships, from betrayals and disappointments. These wounds do not simply disappear when love enters the picture. If they remain unexamined, they fester beneath the surface, influencing how you think, how you feel, how you behave. You may develop unhealthy attachment patterns, clinging too tightly to your partner out of fear of abandonment or pushing them away because you are terrified of being hurt. You may struggle with trust, not because your partner has done anything wrong, but because someone in your past did. If you do not take the time to work through these things, they will poison even the best relationship. Understanding yourself requires brutal honesty. It requires asking hard questions. Why do you react the way you do? Why do certain things trigger such strong emotions in you? What patterns do you see repeating in your life? Are you seeking love for the right reasons, or are you looking for someone to fill a void within you? If you cannot answer these questions, then you are walking blindly into a relationship, and blindness in relationships leads to destruction. Another crucial aspect of self-awareness is understanding your values. What do you truly believe? What matters most to you? Many people enter relationships based solely on attraction, chemistry, or shared interests, but those things are not enough. If you do not share the same core values, if you do not have the same fundamental beliefs about life, about commitment, about the future, then the relationship will inevitably face conflict. Love alone cannot bridge that gap. This is why impulsive relationships are so dangerous. If you do not know yourself, you will not know what you need in a partner. You will choose based on fleeting emotions rather than deep compatibility. You will chase excitement rather than stability. And when the initial passion fades, you will find yourself trapped in something that does not truly serve you. This is how people end up in toxic relationships, in relationships that drain them, that make them feel lost rather than support, because they did not take the time to ask themselves the hard questions before committing. A person who knows themselves does not settle for a relationship that is merely comfortable or convenient. They do not fall into relationships out of fear of being alone. They choose consciously. They choose wisely. And that makes all the difference. When you truly understand yourself, you become more capable of understanding others. You develop empathy. You learn to communicate in a way that builds rather than destroys. You recognize when your emotions are valid and when they are being distorted by past wounds. You can engage in conflict without resorting to blame or defensiveness. You can express your needs clearly rather than expecting your partner to read your mind. In short, you develop the tools necessary to build something that lasts. Relationships are not a place to lose yourself. They are a place to become more of who you truly are. But if you do not know who you are, then you will mold yourself into whatever your partner wants you to be. You will compromise in ways that do not serve you. You will suppress your true desires, your real needs, in an attempt to keep the peace. And in doing so, you will lose respect for yourself, and your partner will too. People often wonder why their relationships fail. They look to external reasons. They blame circumstances, they blame timing, they blame their partner. But in many cases, the real issue is within. The real issue is a lack of self-awareness, a lack of preparation, a lack of understanding of what it truly takes to sustain love. If you want a strong, healthy, lasting relationship, then you must do the inner work first. You must become someone who is capable of carrying the weight of commitment. You must confront your past, understand your emotions, take responsibility for your actions. Because love is not just about finding the right person. It is about being the right person. And when you have done that, when you have put in the effort to truly know yourself, you will find that the right relationship will come in its own time. You will not have to force it. You will not have to chase it desperately, because you will be prepared. You will be ready. And when love does arrive, you will have the strength, the wisdom, and the stability to build something real, something that does not just make you feel good in the moment, but something that truly lasts.